In terms of energy, I think there's ways that one can enhance one's energy in order to do a whole lot more than one might think.
Welcome to the Legacy Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Beauparlant, here to guide you through the journey of selling your business and building a personal brand that leaves a lasting impact. On the show, we'll explore real-life founder stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you navigate the transition, avoid post-sale crisis, and create your impact-driven legacy brand. Whether you're thinking of selling, building to sell, or already on the other side, this podcast is your go-to resource for making your next evolution your best one yet. Let's dive in. Today on the Legacy Branding Podcast, I'm excited to welcome Jay Rosenzweig, a globally recognized entrepreneur, humanitarian, and leadership strategist. He has spent decades helping businesses build world-class teams while driving meaningful change. Beyond business, Jay is a tireless advocate for human rights and social justice. For nearly 2 decades, his annual Rosenzweig report has tracked gender diversity in leadership, earning endorsement from world leaders and industry icons. He also chairs the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights and supports multiple global initiatives focused on equity and empowerment. From investing in impact-driven businesses to producing Emmy-nominated films, Jay proves that success and purpose can go hand in hand. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Nice to see you. I'm happy to be on. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I love, it's like the bio keeps going. It's like you do this and you do this. Oh, and let's not forget producing Emmy-nominated films. So you have such a diverse offering and background, from business to the different things that you're doing that are more philanthropic around human rights. And I just love that you are doing so much with your life and your business that goes beyond sort of that one dimension that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get caught up in this trap of, we do this one thing, and you are doing so many things, and yet they all seem so beautifully tied together.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's important, I think, to live a life of joyfulness and a life of impact. It's important at the same time, of course, to make a living and to pay the bills and to try to offer your family an enjoyable life. I managed to sort of squeeze in a lot of the things that are most important to me, family being actually number one. I always say that my wife and 3 kids are my biggest priority.
I love that. I love that you're leading with family, and everything else you do supports the time and the effort that you have with them.
Exactly right.
I wanted to ask about, you've been working with helping companies attract top talent. What do you think makes a truly impactful leader today?
I think there's a number of factors. Some of it probably counterintuitive. I'm in the business of assessing leaders as well for potential roles to take businesses to their next levels. And I think that humility is something that's very important. I like to see, when I'm interviewing a potential leadership candidate, them give credit to their team for past accomplishments or admit that there are certain tailwinds in the market that help them from time to time. But someone who's really caught up in taking credit for everything themselves, it's actually an impossibility. We all need help. And it indicates to me that when someone's ego is overly inflated, it could put an enterprise potentially in jeopardy. I think curiosity is something that's very, very important. Someone who's genuinely curious, always learning, always wanting to know more, always wanting to stay on top of where the market is going and even have a vision for the future. Those things are really, really important. And finally, a grounding in integrity, someone who has a real integrity and moral compass. So those would be 3 of the characteristics that would be top of mind for me when assessing leadership candidates for my clients.
Do you find that that's changed over time? Like, is something different today than you might have seen years ago?
I think one of the things that has changed is the emphasis on impact. I think more and more young people care about having an impact on the world and having a sense of purpose. I think that there's nothing inconsistent with being a capitalist and wanting to make money and at the same time wanting to have positive impact in our world. I think that's actually the future of what I call the intersection of profit and purpose. There's a number of businesses that I'm involved in that work at that intersection. For example, I'm on the board of advisors of a fund called Full Cycle out of Los Angeles. The fund buys businesses whose mission it is to reverse climate change. So one of the businesses, for example, turns waste into clean energy. I'm a venture partner in a venture capital fund out of New York called Rebalance Capital, and we invest in two very topical issues, one being fintech, the other one being the future of work. But the central mission of the businesses that we invest in must have this impact, and that is to uplift lower to middle income families. Now, these businesses are meant to yield great returns for its investors. However, they cannot detract from this important impact mission. So I think that's a very key thing that's evolving in this day and age.
I've been hearing a lot more about the term conscious capitalism, which feels like that fits in there. Yes, we all need to make money, and yet we can also do it without it hurting other
That's right.
people, and that it can actually have a positive impact. So let's talk about this annual report that you do that tracks gender diversity in leadership. So what have you seen? Have you seen any changes? Are there any patterns? Are things getting better?
Yeah, so you and I both being Canadian, the basis of the report is the top 500 roles in Canada, basically the top five executive roles in Canada's top 100 publicly traded companies. And I decided to do this survey 20 years ago, which I've been doing year after year, called the annual Rosenzweig Report on Women in Leadership, basically measuring the percentage of women in these top roles. So in 2006, when I began the survey, the percentage was 4.6%. I thought the numbers would be low. I didn't realize they would be that low. And in terms of your question regarding progress, if you fast forward to today, the percentages has tripled. The percentages have tripled. Even though that's encouraging to see that progress, we feel the progress is still nonetheless a little bit too slow. That means that 87% of the top roles are held by men. So we'll keep plugging away, but encouraged to at least see that there is some progress.
Yeah. I remember hearing that there were more leaders named Bob than there were women in leadership roles or something like in I thought that was an interesting
Yeah, and
statistic.
very telling.
Yeah. Not a positive one, but telling for sure. So let's talk about your human rights because I feel like there's a lot of things I want to touch on. And I think all of this feels aligned and connected to who you are as a businessman, as a family man. So, what does the work that you're doing through human rights? How does that impact your business? And what is your goal with that?
Yes, so I'm a lawyer by background. I studied at McGill. I met a really important mentor and professor there named Erwin Kotler, who is known for his work over the past several decades, including his anti-apartheid advocacy and his representing people like Natan Sharansky in the former Soviet Union. He went on to become Canada's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and when he left Parliament, he established his Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights, international human rights organization, and asked me to be its board member and ultimately its chair, which I've been happy to do over the last decade. It's really a continuation of his work, also very in line with my own values and my own desire to help the oppressed, whether it be women's rights, as we alluded to earlier, through the business channel, whether it be combating the global trend toward authoritarianism, prevention of and cessation of advocacy for the cessation of genocides, et cetera, et cetera. So it fills a need that I think each of us should fill in trying to do better in the world and to help those, to give voice, let's say, to the voiceless. And of course, as I say earlier, marrying the opportunity to business and make impact is really important to me. And what I find is that it's typically actually a more effective way to help people, namely through incentivizing them financially, because pure nonprofits are led by volunteers. Others may not. But when you dangle a financial incentive in front of somebody, that's often a very powerful way to get people to move, whether it be on issues of environment or uplifting lower to middle income families. So I have a combination of nonprofit, for profit, sometimes the melding of both in terms of impact and profit, so that I could try all these different avenues through which to help people and to help society make the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you find balancing your time between these different efforts that you're working on?
Well, my main business and my clients are always the priority. That's always the thing I will focus on because I need to make sure that the business is taken care of properly and my clients are given the utmost of attention. Layered over that, of course, family is always number one. But I always seem to find the time for each aspect of my life. It typically flows in a way that I'm able to meet whatever demands I have on me with the greatest level of intensity and with the greatest level of care. But I always put my all into everything that I do. In terms of energy, I think there's ways that one can enhance one's energy in order to do a whole lot more than one might think. They say that one person with a sufficient amount of energy and passion and capabilities can do in 1 year what would take another person 10 years to do. So if one lived 100 years with that kind of level of energy and passion and drive, it's as if from an impact point of view, they live for 1,000 years. And I can list a whole bunch of different ways one can achieve those levels of energy, whether it's ensuring that you stay as physically fit as you possibly can. I exercise every single day, whether it means eliminating anything that is wasteful to your energy, wasted energy, whether that be gossip or relationships that are toxic that you need to remove from your life or as much as you possibly can. There's various ways one can do that, but the ultimate goal is to be joyful by one's very nature, regardless of what life throws at you. There's no question that when you're joyful, your ability to think clearly and achieve things at the highest levels of energy is at its peak.
I love that. And I totally agree with that physical fitness. Like if you don't have your health, you can't do anything. I hurt my back about a month ago and was totally incapacitated. And it was just that reminder of if you don't have your health, it has an impact in every area of your life. It impacted my work, it impacted my family life, my emotional mental health. And so it was another reminder, as much as I do work on being physically fit, strong, it was that reminder that it's actually that much more important. It's not wrong of me to go take the time to exercise and take care of myself. In fact, I can be a better business owner, wife, mother, and so on if I am healthy and strong.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Sometimes these things are gifts that we need as reminders to do those things. And I love that analogy of if somebody lives to 100 and they live with that energy and purpose, it's as if they lived 1,000 years. And I think it's easy for people to, you kind of go through the motions of life and you get to the end and it's like, oh, wow, that happened, but it went by without being intentional. And something that I talk about a lot and in a keynote that I deliver is about living an intentional life, living, I call it a selfish life of meaning, meaning you're taking care of yourself so that you get to live the life that you desire. But that has that ripple effect that has a great and beautiful impact on everybody around you.
Absolutely. Well said.
So let's talk about these Emmy nominated films, because I feel like we've already talked about all these different aspects of things that you do. And then you throw in something like film, and I know you're into music. So let's talk about this other side to you. And how did you get involved in that? And what does that mean to you to be involved in these films?
Well, it relates to impact as well. I was invited to meet with the Ukrainian leadership about a year or two ago after the Russian invasion. And the person who really opened the door to this opportunity was a guy named Aaron Kaufman, who sadly has since passed on. He and Sean Penn were working on a film called Superpower, which your audience can watch. It was on Paramount Plus for a while, and now the decision was made to put it on YouTube so that everybody can see it. It's about the Russian invasion, and it's a study of Zelensky and his evolution as a leader, actually, talking about leadership. And I was able to present to the leadership in Kyiv our Raoul Wallenberg Center's analysis of the Russian Federation's breaches of the Genocide Convention. We drafted statutes for the establishment of a special tribunal to investigate crimes of aggression, which is, by the way, ongoing work. 10-point action plan by our founder, Erwin Kotler, for the community of democracies to implement. And through that process and through the help that I offered to the team, Aaron was kind enough to give me the credit of being executive director of the film. And it was nominated for an Emmy for, I think, Best News Documentary or something of that nature. I was also made an associate producer on a series, kind of a Wi-Fi future of tech kind of series called Razor, about sort of AI and the future of AI and what if AI was implanted in our brains and that kind of thing. That was nominated for Best Actress in its category. I'm also on the advisory board of a film fund called Partners in Kind, run by two amazing women, Shelley Tagilski and Jillian Hormel. Shelley Tagilski being a former CNN hero who's raised tens of millions, over $100 million for those in need through mutual aid charity or nonprofit called Pandemic of Love, which she set up after the pandemic hit. This is a fund that invests in films that have impact. So again, back to the topic of impact. I really enjoy being immersed in the arts. And on the music side, I've invested in some pretty cool businesses in the music space, again, at the intersection of music and impact. One organization called Winston House in particular on the west side of LA. It's really a community more than an organization, I should say. I myself dabble in writing music and that sort of thing. I'm working on a very impactful song right now, a song from Mother Earth to her children, and I'm co-writing it with some well-known artists, Academy Award winners, Grammy Award winners. So that's a lot.
I look forward to hearing that song. So what I love is you're a lawyer by background, you have this leadership business, you're doing all these things, and yet you're making music and you love that, the arts and the creativity. And I think we get stuck in these as people in general, not even just as entrepreneurs, that we get kind of pigeonholed that because you do this, you are like this. And because you do that, you are like that. And people get surprised when you do this thing that seems so outside of the box of what people assume you to be. My brother-in-law is a brilliant musician and works in insurance. And that's like he gets to use his creative outlet in his music, and it's not his career. He's like, it doesn't need to be my career, but it's this piece of me that's really big. And I think those things can work in tandem. And I think our creativity is a big part of our humanity.
I think one of the fundamental issues that people struggle with is chasing happiness, chasing fulfillment based on latching on to made up identities. So it's important to understand what you are and what you aren't, who you are and who you aren't. So even our body, it's not us, it's our body, meaning it belongs to us, but it's not us. It's an accumulation. It's essentially accumulation of food. We accumulate food, we continue to grow. Our mind is just an accumulation of data. It's an accumulation of memories. It's accumulation of ideas and memories and information. So again, although a lot of our identities might be beautiful, our nationality, our religion, you might be proud of your job, whatever you do, you're CEO of a bank, you're actually not any of these things when it boils down to it. These are just identities that you're latching onto. And if you don't differentiate and separate yourself a little bit from your body and mind to create that little space, where that's actually the end of suffering, then you're constantly going to be in a state of compulsiveness. And if you're reactive to everything that's coming at you, someone said something nice to me, therefore I'm happy. Someone said something bad to me, therefore I've been thrown off. The stock market's up, therefore I'm happy. The stock market's down, therefore I'm unhappy. If you're a slave to the whims of other people or other things that happen that are largely outside of your control, you will never be a consistently joyful and happy person. So I think all of that identity stuff should be put aside in its rightful place. And it's only then when you're at ease. And when you're at ease and you're a joyful person by nature, that's when you're at your highest level of energy and you're able to be at peak performance at the same time and actually be impactful for all the people around you in your immediate vicinity as well as the world.
That's beautiful. And I've never heard that description of a person's body and brain in that way before. And I thought that was such a vivid way of explaining it. We are just a vehicle.
Think of it, even in terms of the mind, all this, you're basically, your mind is an accumulation of all this data that has hit you from the moment that you've been born. Imagine all of the data was erased. You'd still be alive, still exist. That's further proof to my hypothesis that you aren't your mind. You aren't your identities that have been created in your mind. That's the journey of self-realization. That's the whole idea of life.
Yeah. Okay. So, with everything you've built from your business, your advocacy, your creative endeavors, these ideas on who we are that you just shared, how do you define legacy? And what is the legacy that you want to create for yourself?
I've come to the realization that legacy is unimportant. Legacy is just an ego thing. In fact, if you're able to make such an impact in the world, such that the next generation is living such a peaceful and joyful and healthy life that you're forgotten, all the better. Legacy is just an ego thing. The only important thing that we can offer is that others can stand on our shoulders and take the impact that we've attempted or the positive messages we've tried to bring to the world to make it a more healthy and sustainable and joyful place, that they run with it and repair the world even better than we have, such that we have ultimately the most peaceful and prosperous and caring world that we could possibly have moving forward. But legacy per se is just an ego thing. It's almost a selfish thing, worrying about whether or not people remember what I did or having my name on a hospital and all that kind of stuff. It's just ego.
I think it can be defining who you are today that will live on, even if you are forgotten. But it comes back to this idea of impact that we talked about originally. It's really, what am I here to do? Who am I?
Yeah, if legacy is defined in terms of not necessarily an individual's name being attached to being given credit for something, then in that sense, a legacy can be a very positive thing.
Absolutely. So, what's next for you? And how can our listeners connect with you and support all of your endeavors?
I think continuing to try to have as positive an impact as I possibly can, continuing to drive opportunities to generate wealth is important, continuing to help my clients to build the very best teams they can to move their enterprises forward. All of these things continue to be really important to me. In terms of where people can find me, myname.com, Jay Rosenzweig.com is my personal website. You can find tons over there in terms of the various activities I'm involved in. And you could find me as well on LinkedIn or Instagram pretty easily.
Perfect. I'll make sure to include all those links and the movie as well from YouTube. We'll make sure that we can share that in the show notes so all the listeners can watch this amazing film that you were a part of. Jay, thank you so much for being here. It was a great conversation.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into the Legacy Branding Podcast. I hope today's episode has inspired and empowered you on your journey to building a brand that truly matters. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other founders who you think would benefit from listening. And if you're ready to take the next step in building your legacy brand, visit our website, labcreative.ca, to learn more and book a call. Don't forget to join us next time for more conversations that will help you navigate your transition and create your legacy. Until then, I'm Laura Beauparlant.